Hey there, everybody. We are just buttoning up some of the last touches on another one of our staircases, and I thought this would be a nice time to talk about how we're approaching some of the infrastructure builds and considerations we have as we take on different earth moving projects. Um, Hopefully, some of this is interesting to you guys and useful, so stick around. Just a quick note about the tools that we've been using for this project. We have our flat-backed rake on the left and my trusty forest shovel on the right. And the reason this is my forest shovel is that I come in here with a flat file. You can use a mill bastard as well, but I use a double cut so that it grinds a little bit more aggressively and it takes me a little less time to touch up the tip. But that little cutout in the nose of this shovel allows me to use it to seat on a root that I'm trying to cut through, and it'll just slice right through super cleanly. What I don't have with me currently is the hatchet for trimming stakes, the mallet for driving the stakes, and my saw for cutting lengths. As we've been going up the slope, we've been thinking about making these steps a little bit higher. You can see that there is some difference, even though this last one has not been filled in yet. There is a slighter step with some of these more uphill ones, and part of that is the consideration that we've been hitting subsoil roots that cross the whole span of each step. And because these are leading into trees that we are using as our overstory, as the rest of this system comes into its own, we are loath to cut through each and every one of these or try to force our design on a landscape that is contrary to the process that we are undertaking here. So this will get covered a little bit back up. The general idea is to take each of these steps and pitch it ever so slightly back into grade. And by doing this, we can make something kind of like a patty system, or steps as in STEPPES, that will have the water come down and then sit here, unable to come forward more, and kind of held in these bowls and depressions. We'll come in and lay down wood chip in here and seed it out to some clover and probably transplant some strawberry and some Michella in here. And I think they'll do fine. But our plan is to take any of this extra water that's not being directed into the beds that we are building out in these spaces, or the catchment systems we're designing on the sides of the trails. And any of the water that we can catch with these stairs, or any of the earth-moving infrastructure projects that we do, should be designed around catching some of this extra runoff from the hill, slowing it, spreading it, sinking it, and storing it, so that the rest of our forest system is better hydrated throughout any kinds of drought periods. Another thing that we're doing with all of this soil is laying it down on top of all of the woody debris we've been cleaning from the forest floor in an effort to pile resources and group them in areas that are productive for the design and system as a whole. So as we perform these tasks, as we dig in, as we build trails and rake debris, we are depositing it into beds that are closest to the workspace so that we just capitalize on any efficiencies that are possible. As we do, we'll seed out either early successional things in the cases of bare soil like this, or I have also been tossing in aronia and viburnum seeds into these. And the thought is, as we add more and more mineral fertility in the form of the grass and the leaves and any of the trimmings that we take, these woody perennials will also help to stabilize these beds, as well as provide a further set of harvestables and extra infrastructure in the form of suggestive guide rails. Or if we're very creative, we could take some stems and interweave and make a super organism out of the infrastructure necessary to make sure that this is a safe slope to travel. So we were just over, just to the right of that yellow tomato cage that you see over there moments ago, and we are now at the top of the hill where the main staircase into the woods will end up going. A few days ago, I took cuttings from one of our willow bushes. It is a tricolor willow. I believe the variety is named Nishiki. And I took cuttings and stuck them in. They may be a little hard to see, but there are numerous ones. There's one right there, and then repeated every foot or so, leading back until we hit about even with this maple over here. They're repeated on the right side as well, and our plan is to leave an archway in the long term as a sort of welcome center as you enter the woods. But as we come into where the third set of stairs, or the third set of steps rather, is going, and you can see from up here how water travels down and creates these banks of leaves and needles and dirt, and then changes direction. And yes, there is some light foot traffic in here, but the vast majority of what happens back here is straight runoff. And the way that the water moves down this hill is part of the reason that we do some of these infrastructure projects that we're working on, so that when we do try to travel in, we're not creating landslides or moving huge amounts of dirt with us, and we can more evenly spread the water as it travels down. You can see we've been gathering some more of the logs. These things are beastly heavy, so my thought might be a small staircase similar to the ones that we had on the other side at the top. But as we dig in here, I'll be mounding soil up on that side and into the beds that begin traveling down. You can kind of make out the tomato cages over there in the distance, also bright yellow. You can hear the frogs. We'll be taking the soil and depositing it on the sides of those steps, and depending on how much we have, I think bringing it in here to be the uphill side and catchment area for this trail. This trail here is a whole catchment area of small undulations and edge spaces to feed and water this bed here. And that path actually is part of the overflow for the duck pond space. So as the ducks poop everywhere, as they are wont to do, their effluent will come down and start fertigating into these spaces. And there's a huge amount of woody debris and downed material. This bed is 18 to 20 feet wide at some areas. And we've also been bringing some of the banked soil from up top and our dirt pile and beginning to toss some of that down on these, and we'll begin seeding these out. My plan is to bring a lawnmower through and just mulch what's in the paths themselves, to give me a full view of the rocks and an estimation of how much material I can expect to cover some of these additional downed logs with. We'll be trying to get as many tree crews to dump for us this year as possible so that I can build out a wood chip trail system. That's it for today, folks. My hope is to finish getting these steps leveled out to the way that I like, and then moving on to the next project. The weather's calling for a few days of rain, so hopefully I'll be able to get out here before we put wood chip down on any of the paths and take some comparison video to see what the effectiveness is, and we'll be sure to share those to you. But till then, thanks for watching. Happy planting.